Hello and welcome to another StudyNT Skills Series episode. My name is Amy Hetherington and these videos are designed for international students in the Northern Territory to help them with their confidence, employability and connection to the community. This episode is all about networking and how to make a great impression. Before we get any further, please download the worksheet to do alongside this video. It really helps you test out these skills and get a better idea of how to network by doing the worksheet alongside the video. Networking, it's super important, especially up here in the Northern Territory where word of mouth is your strongest ally when it comes to finding opportunities and securing employment. Networking can happen at a conference, in a meeting, at a workplace function, at university, at the shops. All opportunities where you're connecting with other people are chances for a networking situation to occur. It doesn't always have to be a formal situation either. But how do you network effectively? It doesn't mean being on and selling yourself all the time. It means being good at communicating and building rapport with another human being or a group of people. This video is going to look at some tips and tricks on how to be a stronger networker to help with your career pathway in the Northern Territory. But before I get to that, let me ask you a question. Do you like networking?
Thoughts can be self-fulfilling. What does that mean? Well, if you don't like networking, if you think it's awkward and small talk is a waste of time, then it probably will be. The way you think of a situation can have a huge impact on how it turns out to be. So check your perspective before you start.
If you're somebody who really doesn't like networking, here's a couple of things you can do to reframe it. Think about it as an opportunity to meet somebody new. It's a chance to share your stories and something that you're good at or something that you're working on. It's a socializing experience that builds a stronger rapport with your colleagues, peers, and other people within your network. It doesn't always have to have an outcome. It could simply be about that relationship building. And it's also a chance for you to learn something new and potentially help somebody else. That's my favorite way to think about networking. I think of it as an opportunity for me to be able to assist somebody else's connections in the community, find a way to reframe it into a positive opportunity, and you're guaranteed to make a better impression during that networking. Because trust me, if you go into networking with a negative energy, people will remember that. And we don't network to sell something or to get somebody to sign on a dotted line or to get a job straight out of it. We network to be remembered. You might be around a bunch of different people talking, and what you want is for someone within that group to remember you when you send an email introducing yourself again or looking for an opportunity or a way to connect or share resources. Being remembered, being at the front of somebody's mind is the goal of networking. So, how do you want to be remembered? Is there a certain quality or a vibe or an energy that you give off that you think really helps people understand who you are and what you're about? Setting our own expectations of how we'd like to be remembered and putting that out there is a great way to manifest that for other people. So think about it. How do you want to be remembered? So the first activity on the worksheet is a bit of a reflection. How do you want to be remembered at a networking event? Okay, so we've reframed networking into something you're looking forward to. We've thought about how you want to be remembered and the kind of impression you want to leave on people. Now we need to talk about how to be good at networking. The first thing to help be a better networker is to give yourself permission to talk about yourself. We sometimes put a lot of pressure on ourselves and feel maybe a little awkward talking about ourselves in social circumstances or in work circumstances. But to be good at networking, you also need to be good at giving a little bit of yourself into a social situation. That doesn't mean telling everybody your entire life story or talking about yourself non-stop. It means having a balance of asking questions and engaging in conversation, but also sharing a little bit of your thoughts and your background and how you fit into that context.
Here's a couple ways to feel more comfortable talking about yourself. Pretend you're one of your friends. We always talk so highly about our mates. Be a friend to yourself. Instead of focusing on what, focus on why. When sharing things from our world, it may be more interesting to focus on the why. So if they say, "What do you do?" you might answer with a bit of your why. Like, "Oh, I'm an accounting student. It's enjoyable because I like solving problems and making things easier for people." And thirdly, reduce the fear of being disliked. It's okay if you don't connect with someone. It's impossible to be liked by everyone. And if you don't connect with someone, it's not your fault. If you can accept it's not important to always be liked and reduce that fear, then it'll help you feel more confident.
Okay, so let's look at my top 7 tips for being a great networker. Off the top of my head, the main things that help for communication are people that speak with passion and enthusiasm about the topic that they're talking about. Good communicators also ask excellent questions and engage with the person they're talking to. They listen well. They hear cues in conversations that they can segue into or turn the conversation towards. Really actively listen to the person you're talking to. Good communicators also know what they're talking about. So when you're networking, don't try to talk about stuff that you have no idea about, unless you're asking questions to learn. Always speak within the realms of your own comfort, because then you're going to say more intelligent things in a more confident way and be remembered for having some really good, useful information or opinions on that topic. You also need to be brief, succinct and filtered. You don't need to say everything, and if you find that you're waffling and continuing on, you're probably going to find that the people you're talking to tune out a little bit. Keep it nice and brief, keep it snappy. Have a bit of a chat, then ask a question. Make sure that lots of people get an opportunity to speak in that situation. The other thing that a good communicator does is they use their body language in a positive way. That might mean using your hands or smiling or making eye contact. It doesn't mean crossing your arms and folding your body away. You want to kind of present yourself as open for that conversation. There's a little bit more information on body language in the public speaking episode that we did earlier. So if you want to go back to that and refresh, that's probably a good idea. And if you check out the worksheet now, there's a good activity on how to be a better communicator. If you want to be remembered in networking, there's a couple of things that you can do. Find common ground with the person you're speaking to. I don't know about you, but when I'm talking to somebody that I've got something in common with, time seems to go quite fast and I feel quite connected to them because conversation flows easily because there's a shared passion. Find common ground with the people you're speaking to. It doesn't always have to be work as well. Networking and building relationships and rapport doesn't have to be within the realms of your industry. Look for things outside in the community or things that you're passionate about. It's a great way to be remembered by that person because inevitably you want to build a connection with a person. The other way to be memorable is to genuinely enjoy the conversation. There is an energy that comes off somebody who is enjoying what they're doing. Their body language is more positive, their voice is more interesting, they are more engaging. Find a way to enjoy it. If you don't, it will be easily read. So reframe it into something that you're enjoying. And connect with stories. Human beings have been telling stories to each other for years and years and years and years and years. It's how we understand the world. Sometimes a little fun story or an anecdote from your workplace or your childhood or your time in Darwin is a great way to connect with somebody. I know for me, I always remember people at networking based on one of the fun stories that they shared or something interesting. So when they follow up with me on an email and it says, "Hey, my name's Chelsea, it was great to talk to you about our dogs," I will always remember that person. Stories are a great way to connect with people. So maybe have a couple of stories ready at your networking. Find something that's relevant, find something that's interesting, and something that you enjoy telling.
Human beings have been connecting, understanding, and empathizing through storytelling for thousands of years. It's a format we all understand. It's familiar to us and allows us to easily connect. And we've all got little stories that can make entertaining networking banter, especially international students. Mates, tell the story of coming to the NT. Why did you do it? What was it like when you arrived here? It'll be totally relatable and real.
Good networkers are also cooperative communicators. Now, what does that mean? That means that the conversation isn't just about you and your goals and the things that you're trying to achieve in that conversation. It's about going somewhere together as a pair or as a group of communicators, finding that common ground, sharing that story, building a conversation together. You are a good cooperative communicator by asking questions, by asking for somebody else's opinion on something, for saying, oh, have you got something similar when you're sharing a story? That's how you build something together. Think about it as a team creating a Lego structure rather than two teams competing in a sport where one person speaks and another person speaks and who's better. It's about how you build those blocks as a team that makes for a better networking experience. If you know the context of what's just happened and what's about to happen and maybe what's the event or why people are there, you're going to be a lot better at networking because you can give it some sort of purpose and link it back to the bigger picture of what's happening. So for example, if you're at a conference and a guest speaker has just presented on something that you're quite interested in, talk about that. Maybe ask them what they're looking forward to for the rest of the conference or the event. If it's the dry season, you can talk about the events in Darwin that are coming up. Think contextually about what's relevant. Use the context to your benefit when you're networking. Oh, and also never hesitate to start a conversation with somebody. Generally speaking, at a networking event, if you see somebody by themselves, they're going to be quite grateful if you come over and start the conversation. Be generous with that space. I know it can be awkward and a bit hard, but give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? They don't want to talk to you. Cool. They're not the right person to be speaking to. It doesn't matter. Put yourself out there and be kind to yourself. Trust me, it'll pay back in the networking world. If you go to the worksheet now, there's a couple of activities about how to set a good context and understand that in your networking. Again, that body language is incredibly important. Something like 55% of all of the meaning that we convey comes from our body language. What we say gives off our energy and it gives off our enthusiasm and our feelings. So think about your body language in your networking situation. Put your phone away, make eye contact, smile, be engaged, use your hands, don't fiddle with things. If you're going to be eating at the same time, think strategically about when to take that bite. Remember to stand up tall and speak clearly. If you happen to have an accent, that's fine, but just make sure that if you're speaking fast because you're excited, you just slow it down a little bit to make sure that the other people in that conversation can clearly hear what you're saying. And if you take a pause because you're translating because English isn't your first language or you're trying to think about the right context, that's okay. A pause feels a lot longer for you than it does for your audience. So give yourself permission to take that time. I think the more present you are and the more in that conversation you naturally are, the more your body language will organically do what it needs to do. So give yourself over to that conversation.
Human beings enjoy talking to other human beings, not spammy advertisements or built-up personas. We live in a world of social media and branding. Be authentically you. It'll be refreshing and memorable.
If you're nervous about networking, maybe have some questions or some stories prepared before you get in there. There's nothing wrong with coming into a conversation a little bit researched. It means that you're going to have something to fall back on if the conversation kind of wanes a little bit. It also means the more prep you do at the beginning, the easier it's going to get. And the more networking you do, the easier it's going to get as well. Remember, the goal is to be remembered, not to say everything. You don't have to tell them every single thing you understand about a certain question or a topic. Being remembered is all about the energy that you give off and the fun that you have in that conversation. So give yourself over to those conversations and don't try to fill all the space with your knowledge. Allow for two-way communication to happen and try and have fun. The more fun you're having, the more likely it is those people will remember you, which again is that goal of networking. And guaranteed when you're networking, somebody will probably say something like, tell me about yourself. Have something ready for that. It's a weird question and it can be quite a stressful thing to answer, so spend some time preparing an answer. There's a great activity in the worksheet now on how to answer the question, so tell me about yourself, so give it a go. Okay mates, that's it for this video. Again, with every one of these soft skills, the only way you're going to get better is to practice. So go out there and network. Go to the young professional events and things around Darwin where you can connect with and meet other people in your industry or in different industries. If you need any more help for things while you're studying in the Northern Territory, head to the StudyNT website. Otherwise, we'll see you at one of the next episodes. My name's Amy Hetherington. Thanks very much.